Welcome back everyone to another Mythfall devlog. If you're new to the channel, I'm building a browser-based bullet hell MMO from scratch in Golang and documenting the process along the way. This week I wanted to focus on adding a tutorial to Mythfall. I mostly wanted to cover a lot of the early skills required to play, like moving, dashing, attacking, recalling, and crafting. For the more advanced systems, I'm hoping to tutorialize them as they become available to the player through the progression systems. That way there isn't a huge knowledge dump for new players right when they join. The next thing that I tried to do was to add like kind of a basic starter dungeon for the tutorial. I figured that this would be like a good starting room to teach them how to move. Then I was going to have some like red or some projectiles that shoot up and down that you have to dash through so that they learn how to dash. And I'll probably make it so that if you hit one of them, you teleport back to like here or something like that. A lot of special property to the projectiles. I'm not sure exactly what I'll put in the next rooms, but that's kind of all I planned up to. I do want to do some extra things like teaching them how to like loot from bags or chests or fight or use their ability, things like that. And then eventually they'll get to the end. There'll probably be a portal that takes them back to the town they can just recall. So yeah, that's kind of the initial starting point that I have so far. And then the next thing I did was kind of just prototyping the little shooter thing. This will probably shoot kind of in that hallway that I showed before. I made a little prefab for him, so he looks like this. I didn't have a sprite yet for him, so I just used the bank teller body, so that's why it looks like a bank teller. And then he just shoots a weapon on a timer, and he shoots this specific weapon that I have defined here. I'll have to add an extra targeting type because right now the unnamed targeting just has him shoot right, but I need a targeting type that goes like up, left, and down, because specifically I just need to go down and up, but I might just may as well go through and add them all. So I'll probably do that next. So I went through and added in different targeting types, one for right, one for left, one for up, one for down. I would have preferred to have like a way to target a specific position and maybe add another component for that. Then I could be a little bit more flexible with how I position the targeting. I might change in the future, but for now I only need these 4 cases, so I figured I'd just do that because it was definitely the easiest way to do that. And I'm gonna go with my prefab, and so for example, I can change him to target up. I think I got the axes correct, so he should be shooting up next once this data gets reloaded, I guess. All right, we have up, and then we have down here, and then right. Cool. Seems like it's all working. So now I just need to throw it into the dungeon and have it as like kind of an obstacle. So let's add that next. So I went through and updated the dungeon a little bit. So there's a lot more like skills being tested. Kind of each room is its own little thing. So the first room is for movement. So it teaches you the different keys. And I added these like keybind prefabs. And actually you can go through and they'll map up to whatever you have. So if I change this to be like K or something like that, it would show there as well. These get like dynamically refreshed depending on what your keybinds are. Well, we'll change that back so that I can actually move here. All right, there we go. So then this is the moving room. And then this one is supposed to teach you how to dash. Right now the keybind is the right mouse button. So you just dash through these guys. Originally I was thinking that if I ever took damage, I would send you back so you could like make sure you dash through them all. But I think at least for now, I'll probably just let you like take damage and it's kind of whatever. So you'll take damage if you don't dash properly, which I don't think is too big of a deal because I think you do still learn the skill regardless. And this one's just a little training dummy in the center, and you can attack him and also like cast your ability on him to deal damage that way. So you kind of learn those 2 buttons as well. I actually didn't give him any regen properties yet, so technically he does taking actual damage right now. I might change it so that he just regenerates health over time. Then this is the looting room. So you run in here and there's kind of this like strange potion. It's ephemeral, so when you leave the dungeon, it gets removed from your inventory, but you can hit the Q button to quick loot. That's the quick loot button. And I'll eventually make this chest will just continually restock itself. So there's infinite potions for like whoever comes through this. But yeah, you basically get a potion and I don't know, they'll probably loot up or whatever. Then you run forward. There's a little trigger collider here where once you run over it, it sets your health down to 1. And then that teaches you the quick heal keybind, which is F, which takes your first inventory slot and the first consumable healable inventory slot and consumes that. That heals you back to full. Then the next room is about crafting. When you log in for the first time, you're given a coconut, which is one of the crafting resources. But you can talk to this guy. He's got just 1 recipe. He's the cocoa smith, but he lets you build a coconut helmet, so you can craft that. I don't really have a like a tutorialized way to say like, oh, now you can equip your helmet, but I figure people will realize that they have this like coconut helmet in their inventory and hopefully they will equip it. And then the final room is for recalling. I might add an intermediate room before this one to teach people about the settings menu, hitting escape to go to the settings menu so you can toggle their settings or their keybinds and read patch notes and things like that. But that's what I have right now. Probably the next thing that I'll work on is cleaning up a few of these, like decorating the dungeon a little bit better and stuff like that. So I just finished redecorating the tutorial dungeon. I decided to add this little like instructor guy in every single room. He kind of just like tells you what you should be doing and also insults you quite a lot. So yeah, I actually might need to move him offset so he doesn't cover up that thing. But this is kind of what I think it'll look like. I just kind of added like little weapon racks and barrels and stuff like that all around. I think it looks a lot better now. I might change I feel like there's too much contrast in terms of this color, so I might change that around a little bit. But I think this is a good starting point. I also might spread these rooms out just a bit because they seem a little bit close. I think it's weird when you see, or what I'd prefer to have is you don't see the instructor in 2 places at once. I might add the hallways, make them a little bit longer. But anyways, that's where we are with it now. I think there's a lot of finishing touches I still need to do, so I will start on those now. And how I implemented the tutorial instructor is I basically made a like base prefab with a few like very common components across all of the instructor in the different locations. And then I made basically one for each segment. So I have one for the movement skill, one for the dashing skill, one for the attacking skill. And then they each have their own speech cycle, I call it. And that basically just goes through and prints a specific message for a certain amount of time. I have a system that I wrote to do that. It's pretty simple, but it basically just goes through and yeah, it takes the text and prints it for that long. And then once that one finishes, it prints the next one. And then it loops through this just continually, basically. So pretty simple, and it works pretty well. I decided to go through and redecorate it a little bit more. I also spread the rooms out to be a lot wider so that you would never see like the instructor on, like you could never get into a spot where you'd see the instructor in 2 places at once, just because I thought that felt really weird. I also had my buddy play the game and tested out the tutorial because he didn't know how to play, so he was a good test subject to see what happened. One thing that happened here was he didn't understand that you had to move and right click to dash, so he was just standing still and right clicking and then not dashing. I decided to add like a little arrow key to indicate that you have to be moving while you're dashing to actually execute the dash. And then over here, this was actually pretty self-explanatory. I think he understood this pretty well, using the ability and the attacks. So he understood that pretty quickly. Then moving over here, he was able to figure out how to loot things, so that was nice. He looted everything. And then he ran up here. This used to be invisible, so he just walked past it and took damage, and he was surprised. And he was like, oh, like I don't know what to do now. So I decided to make it red, and so a little bit more indicating that you take damage. There also used to be this recall indicator thing that would like flash over here that said like, oh, your health's low, it's time to recall. And that was I originally added that just because for new players who didn't understand how to recall, it would teach them how to do it. Now that I have a full-fledged tutorial, I don't need that anymore, so I decided to remove it because he saw that and he just immediately recalled, which took him out of the tutorial. I wanted to prevent that. I might add it back if people do want it, but now that you know how to recall from the tutorial, I guess you don't really need to have the indicator here anyway. There's also the red vignette, which shows that your health is very low. But in here, the health hotkey is pretty self-explanatory too. He actually clicked the health potion instead, but I think he understood that there was a hotkey for it. Then for crafting, I decided to give the Cocoa Smith a few more resources so he can craft a few different things. I also decided to just add an infinite chest filled with coconuts, so people can go and like craft a little bit of starting gear. Like they could build a full-fledged like setup and get all ready. So I think that that's just nice, even though it does like devalue coconuts, but they're the starting resource, so they already don't really have very much value anyways. Over here, I decided to make this. I decided to add a hotkey button for that, just so that he would hit the hotkey button to go to the settings menu. And then over here, the recall, I think this is pretty simple as well, where you just hold the R button to return to the town. So yeah, that was the little test subject experiment. It was pretty helpful to see him play and just see the changes that I needed to do to make it a little bit clearer. I think there's still a few little blips in the tutorial where people could mess up, but I don't think they're major. I think most people will kind of get the picture if they played games like this before. So I'm not super worried about it, but maybe in the future I'll improve it a little bit more anyways. That's all I have for this week. As always, an absolutely massive thank you to all the supporters on YouTube, Twitch, GitHub, and Patreon. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.